The panel Unregulated Fishing Threatening a Viable Ocean Economy is starting right now with two prominent speakers, the Deputy Minister, Mr. Simos Kedikoglou. Mr. Minister, welcome. We are very happy to have you with us. Mr. Kedikoglou is in charge of fisheries, aquaculture, and I would add blue economy in the global context and in the broad context of blue economy. And the second prominent speaker is Ms. Despina Symons, who is the director and coordinator of the European Bureau for Conservation and Development. They will both make their presentation. So I would like to start with Minister Kedikoglou. Minister, the floor is yours. The title refers to unregulated fishing, but it is broader in the sense that it covers overfishing and other issues related to fisheries and aquaculture and to the impacts of climate change on both important sectors.
It's mainly an issue of mentality. It is an issue of mentality as how do we regard our seas and our future. But let me start with the basic facts. Sustainable blue economy is a sector of supreme importance for the European, but also for the Greek economy. The conservation and protection of biodiversity are fundamental for marine economic activity, as they are a necessary condition for activities such as fishing, biotechnology, and tourism, while the conservation and restoration of biodiversity also offer opportunities for economic development. Aquatic biological resources and blue biotechnology are crucial to delivering on the Green Deal's ambition of the blue economy, which alleviates the multiple demands on EU's land resources and tackles climate change. Unprecedented advances in the biotechnology toolbox have triggered an increased interest in the potential of aquatic bioresources. Further research and innovation will be the key to unlock the value of our marine and freshwater biological resources and provide sustainable products and services to the society, whilst avoiding systematic impacts on biodiversity. Nevertheless, the Mediterranean biodiversity is threatened by certain human activities, including maritime transport, overfishing, and illegal fishing, unreported and unregulated fishing, offshore drilling, tourism, coastal and seabed land take, coastal landfills, and marine pollution in all its forms, including marine litter, microplastics, lost, abandoned, and otherwise discarded fishing gear, underwater noise, oil spills, and hazardous materials. Now is the time to concrete action, from formulation to effective implementation, as a matter of utmost urgency and priority. According to the statement that our Prime Minister, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, made exactly before 1 year, there is a need for more efforts on the restoration of stocks to sustainable levels, giving priority on the bycatch reduction, protection of protected species, sustainable fishing, and increased selectivity of fishing methods, and above all, to strengthen the control of fishing activities. The action plan Mediterranean, a Model C by 2030, proposed by France, in which our country participates and undertakes commitments for Greece, focuses on four main challenges to protect the Mediterranean marine environment: loss of biodiversity, unsustainable fishing, pollution of seas, especially from plastics, and unsustainable maritime transport. The importance of regional cooperation for the implementation of conservation measures, both between EU member states through the establishment and implementation of multi-annual management plans, and between the EU and third countries, which is especially important for Greece, through cooperation in regional fisheries management organizations, especially in areas such as the Mediterranean, is a given. We commit to the goal of protecting 30% of the Mediterranean by 2030. Beyond raising the ambition to protect 30% of marine and coastal areas, we must work to ensure that effective enforcement mechanisms are also present to ensure the implementation of all regulations. At the same time, there is the need to avoid unfair competition between the fishers of member states who are obliged to apply to a strict international institutional framework and the fishers of third countries. This for Greece is especially important. We have to continue the fight against IUU fishing activities by strengthening fisheries management and control measures, by improving the remote observation capabilities, by increasing the needed training and support cooperation, exchange of information, and capacity building in order to combat IUU fishing. Greece participates and supports the General Fisheries Commission for the Mediterranean Regional Plan of Action against unregulated fishing and works towards the effective implementation of the GFCM Joint International Control and Inspection Schemes. At the same time, the need for the co-assessment of other anthropogenic activities apart from fishing, which contribute to the degradation of the marine environment and the reduction of stocks and marine biodiversity, must be highlighted. We all know the threat of plastic pollution. For our region, it is essential that Mediterranean states work together towards building an effective policy structure for the elimination of plastic discharges by 2030 at the least. We must set clear and ambitious targets in order to achieve 100% plastic waste collection and recycling by 2025, and to engage the private sector in minimizing plastic packaging at the highest level in favor of transitioning to a circular economy. Concerning the national level, we already support different initiatives on collecting marine litter, including through the implementation of fishing for litter practices and encourage measures targeting the issue of abandoned, lost, or discarded fishing gear. And we support fishers in the key role to assist in the recovery of ghost gear at sea. Because tomorrow, no, the day after tomorrow, I'm going to Amorgos. I want to talk to you about Amorgorama. It is fishing for litter before us. I mean, the fishermen of Amorgos 2 years ago decided that they care about their future more than we had already decided. And they are stopping fishing activities for 2 months, April and May, which is a fishing reproduction period. And they collect litter from the coasts of Amorgos. It's a small, beautiful island in the Aegean Sea, in the Cyclades. Can you imagine how many tons of plastic they collected in 1 month? 12 tons of plastic in 1 month in a small island like Amorgos. My aim, our government's aim, our Prime Minister's aim is to make Amorgos a model, not only for all our Greek islands, but for the whole Mediterranean Sea. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister, for this thorough overview of the critical issues that the blue economy, fisheries and aquaculture are facing, and of course for the best practice that is being developed in Amorgos. We have green islands on energy. Now we will have a green island on sustainable fisheries and a good practice in collecting plastic, which needs to be rewarded for the fishermen, and incentives could be considered in that effect. As time is running, I would like to ask you 2 short questions. I know that you are extremely busy and that you have to leave us. The first question is, have you considered in this broad spectrum of initiatives that you are developing within your ministry, alternative, let's say, means, sustainable initiatives as regards, for example, aquaculture tourism or, let's say, fisheries tourism? That's the first question. And the second question, because of the climate change and the increase of the temperature of the seas, I have heard you referring in other speeches that you have delivered in other fora, that invasive alien species have entered into the Mediterranean. And my question is how Greece and how the European Mediterranean community is considering tackling this problem that is threatening our biodiversity. Mr. Minister, please be as short as possible because we have one more speaker. And
very, very short. You see, we have a difficult balance. Protect our fish deposits, but also support our fishermen. So we must find other ways to support our fishermen. So we have signed an IMU with the Ministry of Tourism in Greece. We are promoting fishing tourism, which is a very good tool. It is a win-win-win situation. What I mean is the fishermen will have a new source of income, and our first results, our first impressions is that we have very good response from our fishermen, but also from our tourists, that they want to explore this unique experience of fishing in Greece. We are an ideal place for fishing tourism of any kind. We have easy coasts for family fishing. We have the wide open sea fishing for more extreme adventurous characters. So this is going well. And also at the same time, when you give an alternative occupation for the fishermen, then they're not fishing so much. So our fishing resources can be sustained and developed. And the third factor, which is not my responsibility, but it's the Ministry of Tourism, we have one more reason to visit Greece. As far as the exotic invaders, as we call them in Greece, the Lesseps migrants, it's a huge question. It is something that we must all work together. You know, just for 1.5 grade in heating of the sea, we have been invaded by fish that don't belong to the Mediterranean. In some cases, like the lionfish, we have found solutions. Our cooks have found ways to cook the lionfish, and it is a very highly esteemed food in our most distinguished places for tourists. But we have other fish like the Lagocephalus. That's a very difficult problem because we're talking about a fish that is big, that is has no natural enemies in the Mediterranean. It comes from the Indian Ocean. In the Indian Ocean, the natural enemy is the sharks. We don't have sharks in the Aegean Sea, so they are multiplying. And we are in constant discussion with other EU countries. It's not just a Greek problem, it is a Mediterranean problem, to find ways how to combat an alien species which is multiplying without enemies. We had the first attack on a human. First time it was a woman in Crete that lost her one of her toe fingers, and we are very much concerned. We are in cooperation with the Ministry of Environment for finding ways, also with fishermen, how to combat this certain species. It is difficult. We must all work together. It is, how can you combat climate change? How can you combat the rise in temperature? Well, that's what we must find ways for solutions.
Mr. Minister, thank you very much. Thank you for being with us. Your replies have risen new.
And I congratulate you for your initiative because, especially for Greece, we are a sea nation. Greece without a healthy sea is not a healthy Greece.
Thank you very much, and we are looking forward to your support in future events of this Mediterranean forum that we have initiated today on developing a circular Mediterranean and on combating litter and plastic pollution in the Mediterranean. Thank you very much. I would like now to give the floor to the second speaker. Mr. Minister, feel free to
Thank you very much. Congratulations for the initiative. We must continue this effort because we have to work together. Not only just us in Greece, all the Mediterranean nations, all the European nations, because apart from the Mediterranean nations, I believe northern nations, Germany, France, Britain, they all come to the Mediterranean. So everybody wants a nice, healthy Mediterranean Sea.
Thank you very much once again. I would like now to give the floor to Madam Symons. I apologize. The minister had very interesting things to share with us, and we were really keen to listen to him and to all the initiatives that Greece is undertaking within the European Union. So the floor is yours now. I would like to kindly ask you, because the time is already spent, to be as short as possible. The floor is yours.
Presentation there.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, first of all, above all, to the Greek-American Chamber of Commerce for inviting me to this very important and distinguished forum. I have enjoyed very much all the presentations and have learned a lot, and especially in this panel. Since we have heard from the minister a lot of the state of play of fisheries and what Greece is doing to tackle these issues, I would focus mainly on some of the main challenges the fisheries sector is facing. There is no doubt that sustainable fisheries and aquaculture is a key enabler for a viable ocean economy. However, as the minister said, the sea and sustainable fisheries is facing many challenges. And I will focus on the two most important challenges for achieving sustainable fisheries these days. The IUU, and the common challenge for both of them is the lack of enforcement and implementation. So what is IUU? I will not read all of this, but it stands for illegal, unreported, and unregulated fisheries. Illegal because the vessel that has operates has no authority to operate in those waters. Unreported because the activity is not reported in any official forum or misreported. And it's unregulated because the vessel has no nationality and is subject to no rules and regulations. So this is one of the most, according to the FAO, threats to the marine environment and to fisheries, to achieving sustainable fisheries. So why is it a big threat for viable ocean economy? First of all, it contributes to overfishing and the depletion of the stocks. It jeopardizes ocean governance efforts. It creates unfair competition for the fishers who actually respect the rule. And it's linked with criminal activities such as money laundering, tax evasion, human rights abuses, etc. IUU has been the focus of a lot of political attention over the last decade. The EU adopted a very stringent IUU-EU regulation, which is actually showing some effects, but it's moving. And FAO has adopted several plans of actions, and the most important one of those is the Port State Measures. It's a Port States Measure Agreement endorsed in 2018, which is one of the most important tools, and I will come later to what that is not implemented in the Mediterranean by several countries. So then we have the overfishing. And of course, overfishing is one of the major problems. It's taking a fish from the stock that does not allow the stock to reproduce. And that creates a stock to decrease. That means it loss of biodiversity and loss of the food security for everything. So there is, for all this, there is lack and poor sustainable fisheries and policies that are responsible for this. But enforcement and implementation of existing instruments still remains a very big obstacle for this. So why is overfishing a threat? Because it affects food security in the long term and the stock depletion. It creates socioeconomic shortcomings for the fishers and the entire value chain. It damages the marine environment, and it contributes to biodiversity loss. According to the FAO Sophia report, there is great progress and in some areas, but overall it still remains a very important problem. The subsidies, the WTO decision of this year to eliminate subsidies that contribute to overcapacity is a milestone for fisheries because it's been on the table for WTO for many years. So, yeah. I just mentioned some of the other challenges which the minister covered in more detail. We have the climate change, we have ocean, which is with ocean acidification, temperature increase, the sea level rise, the invasive also species, which I main raised, plus there is the nexus between fisheries and climate change is increasingly important in the climate COP that will be held in Sharm el-Sheikh, and there will be a lot of daily conferences focusing on this because the nexus between fisheries and it affects the migration, the reproduction of the stocks and all of this, so it's quite important. Then we have the plastic pollution, a lot of it we have heard today, chemical, land-based activities that have consequences also and affect the state of the stocks. We also heard the big problem, the serious problem of invasive alien species. Sorry if I repeat all of this, but I didn't know that. Into competition with native species, and we heard the seriousness of the problem in the Mediterranean from the minister. And then we have lack of policy coherence, that there is not much coherence between the different policies, environmental, development, fisheries, and other relevant policies. In addition, we have poor implementation and enforcement, poor data collection, because we still have in the Mediterranean a lot of short species that we don't have enough scientific data. And of course, another problem is the competition for space. There is currently an ongoing conflict between the inshore fishery, wind farms and fisheries. And that has been a lot of discussion in the EU dealing with this conflict. And a lot of the advisory councils to DG Mare are dealing with this question. So these are some of the challenges. Just some words about the Mediterranean. Overfishing, the Mediterranean and the Black Sea were in 2019, according to the FAO, the world's second most overfished fishing area. Only 36% of the assessed stocks in the area were fished within biological levels, sustainable levels. So, of course, IUU fishing is partly responsible for this situation, and this hinders the efforts made by the fishers who actually comply with the rules. According to an FAO report that was reported lately, 11 Mediterranean countries is reported that they carry illegal fishing, especially with sharks and rays and some species. Of course, a big challenge for the Mediterranean is that it is a shared sea, and that we have shared between the EU and third countries, and that which have different rules, and that is a big challenge. And also the challenge, as the minister mentioned, between what is called the level playing field, the rules that are followed by the EU and are not followed by other members. The most important, as I say, Port State Measures Agreement that was adopted by FAO and is very similar. We have several Mediterranean countries, especially in the Eastern Mediterranean, that have not yet ratified this agreement. So it is very important that they proceed in ratification. And of course, I will not go into detail. GFCM is the body that is dealing with this, with all of these challenges. So I think I will leave because of a short of time, but I would like to answer any of your questions you might have. I have some recommendations.
Thank you very much for this presentation. In 2024, Greece will host the Oceans Worldwide Conference, and of course we will rely on your expertise in preparing properly this conference that Greece will have the privilege to host, and this was praised by Secretary John Kerry as the key achievement for our country to host this important conference. You have referred to all the challenges that we are facing, starting from climate, overfishing, unregulated fishing. What are the enablers and what would you suggest in a nutshell on the roadmap and on how we could face these problems? Of course, there will be global initiatives on combating plastic pollution, but you have referred to more specific ones on fisheries. So can we say 1, 2, 3,
Okay.
as the time has already passed?
Okay, thank you so much. I will be very brief, but yes, first of all, I'm very pleased that our country has taken this to organize the next forum, and I just wanted to inform you that having contributed to the organization, the first and the second UN Ocean Conference, especially in contributing the fisheries part of it, amongst all the other parts, I would be very pleased to assist and collaborate. But some key messages that I would like to leave the thing for. It is very important to focus and implement a precautionary approach and the ecosystem approach to fisheries, considering the whole ecosystem as a whole and multi-species management. You cannot isolate the management anymore. Then, of course, as I said, we need effective implementation and enforcement and a more coherent governance body. But we need to increase scientific research and innovation and, of course, increase fishery knowledge, because a lot of the people, we have to raise awareness of the importance of the things. But last and the most important, I will say, is collaboration. Collaboration at all levels, coordination, collaboration at global, regional, national, and local level. And I think if I say some words about the international level, we have been working a lot. We need an interagency, inter-UN agency collaboration and coordination. For example, in the last 10 years, we have focusing as IUCN in enhancing the collaboration between the CBD, the Convention of Biological Diversity, and the fisheries bodies, FAO and regional fisheries bodies. This is an important, it's done a lot of progress, and there's a lot more to be done. And in this regard, there is a very important dialogue that has been organized by the CBD. And it's the third meeting that is taking place next month in Korea, bringing together all the regional seas organizations and the regional fisheries bodies. And this is one of the most important, the dialogue between the two different agencies at global level. This has to also take place at national and regional and national level. And of course, we need an intersectorial collaboration. The sea is shared by a lot of activities. Indeed. And we need the different sectors to have a dialogue and collaborate together. And just as an important note, as maybe it hasn't been mentioned, as you know, this year is the most important event that everybody has been waiting for, is the adoption by the CBD at the COP in December of the post-20 biodiversity framework. Out of the 21 targets, the new targets proposed that will be adopted, 17 of them relate to fisheries. Yeah. So I think it will be very important to engage and there will be a lot of activity and collaboration opportunity for ministries of fisheries with the environment. A lot of this, of course, it's in the making, but...
Thank you very much.
Okay. And partnerships, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think these last pieces of information were extremely important. We need to develop them and follow them up further.
This collaboration
Indeed.
is between sectors, between agencies, between ministries.
And this is the purpose also of this forum, to develop synergies at all possible levels. Thank you very much. I would like now to invite the moderator of the next panel, Ms.